awesome.
All right.
How's everybody doing? Welcome to
That was
Drummers
fantastic.
Education Connection. I am Bart Robley, and I am here with the one and only Chip Ritter in Tucson,
Hello.
and in Boise, Idaho, Fred Rock Fisher.
Yeah.
I like the Fred Rock. I think that is so cool.
You see my hat? See my hat?
I know, dude. I want a Fred Rock School of Drumming hat.
I will send one to you and Chip and Rick and Jeremy.
No, Jeremy and Rick don't deserve one because they're not here today. That's why you're here.
Oh, then I'll request them to send me a hat of theirs.
There you go. I'm joking. Anyway, everybody, welcome to Drummers Education Connection. Like I said, I'm here with Fred and Chip today. Fred is our guest host today because Rick is in Florida. He is helping out with his mom. She lives down there, and Jeremy's off on vacation. And so, we're here, and our friend Fred has graciously said that he will sit in and act as guest host today. So we're excited about that. As usual, what we're going to do here is kick it off with a couple of things. If you want to help us out here on deck, be a Patreon, help us keep the lights on. That would be fantastic. Also, one of the things that we've been starting to implement into what we do here is we have a sponsorship thing here on deck now, and it's an advertising thing. And if you want to get involved with Drummers Education Connection and you have a product or something like that you would like to advertise with us, we are more than happy to accommodate you on that. Reach out to one of us here on deck. They'll send your information to me, and we'll talk, and I'll let you know everything that is needed to do that. We like to start off every show with a good things, and that's some good stuff that's happening in your life, either in drumming or outside of drumming. And so I'm going to kick it over to Chip. Chip, what do you got going on that's good?
Hey,
and
man, you know what? I'm doing good. I got my students. It's a really hot outside, but we got a nice air-conditioned studio that we teach in. I'm grateful that it's AC. I'm very happy about that. That's a good thing. And then one of my students, he has Williams syndrome, and it's been kind of a struggle, but I've gotten a couple breakthroughs recently playing along with music and getting him to start moving along and playing. And so he's got a good sense of time, and we get along with the beat and we start going along and we try to stay in time with the beat, and it's going good. So that's my good thing.
That is fantastic. Way to go. That is so cool, man. Chip, you've got a heart the size of Texas, man.
It's a struggle, man. It's a struggle, but we're getting through it.
That's great. That's great. Fred, what about you, buddy? You got anything new? You got a good thing you want to share with us?
I do. I have if you allow me, I have three good things. I have more than that, but I have three that I want to specifically talk about.
Okay, let's hear.
Number one, so my band Midline, it's been around for a long time. We've been getting things moving again. We have a brand new release we think it's going to be released on July 22nd, maybe the 23rd, but it is a cover. It's the first time we've ever done a cover. And we were keeping that under wraps, so we decided last night, let's just start telling everybody what it is, because, when bands do covers, that can bring a lot of attention to them. And so this year is the 30th anniversary of Soundgarden's Super Unknown, and we remade the song Mailman. And so we did that song. We shot a video for it. The video is complete. We've got our licensing agreement wrapping up with the publishing companies so that we could be totally legit in releasing that. So that'll be released on July 22nd. Cool. And what we've done with the two previous releases we did like a YouTube video premiere. And so a bunch of our fans all join us in like a group chat and watch the video countdown and premiere on YouTube, and then it gets posted to our website and our page and stuff. So we're pretty jacked about that song. If you know that song.
Yeah.
It's super awesome. Number two awesome thing is last week on July 3rd, late in the afternoon, I got an email, and I was so excited, from our friend Chris Brady.
Chris Brady, CB.
Welcoming me to the Aquarian Drumhead family. So
well deserved.
I'm pretty excited about that.
Well deserved. Well deserved, my friend.
And then on July 4th, we, fireworks and everything. But I had my dad over, and he walks in the door with this, which I hadn't seen in a million years. Check this out.
Oh, that's cool.
I made this drum set in welding class when I was 16 years old.
That's awesome.
It's I call it art because the platform's totally bent, and this is cut pipe for the bass drums, and then I used copper wire and wrapped it around pipe to create toms. And
right on.
You see, if you see the floor toms here, I ran out of steam on the second floor tom. It's a lot shorter.
Hey, that's a double bass kit that Kenny Aronoff would play. He'd have a smaller tom over there on the right hand side.
Yeah,
that's what it is.
I think I was inspired though by Tommy Aldridge's kit from the late 80s. So that's my good things.
That is awesome.
Right
well,
on.
congratulations and welcome to the Aquarian family. That's fantastic.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
Stuff. You bet. I've got a few good things. The band is as usual been locking and rocking, so I'm really happy about that. I'm really thankful for that group. 25 years, and just man, I still can't believe it. Good thing is actually I have the next couple of weekends the band's not playing, so I've got a little bit of downtime. I'm going to spend some time here at the house. Going to make a whole bunch of salsa. It's my new thing. I love making salsa. And also here in the studio, starting Thursday, I'm going to be putting in some new flooring. So I'm excited about that. So that's my good thing. And, all sorts of cool stuff.
Right on.
Salsa ship.
What's that, buddy?
I said new flooring.
New flooring. Yeah. What did you say, Fred?
I was wondering if that salsa will ship.
Oh, it will ship. Most definitely. Yeah. Matter of fact, you know what?
I have your Venmo.
I know. I'm kind of thinking about doing like a salsa thing because people dig it. So I'm going to, I'll get you some salsa. I'll trade you some salsa for a hat.
Bart, what's the hottest salsa you make?
I haven't made a name for them yet, but my red salsa is pretty hot. I mean, it definitely gets your attention. And I make a green salsa as well. And I make two different versions of that. I make a hot green salsa, and then my wife doesn't like stuff that's too hot, so I make her a milder green salsa. But the red stuff, man, it's got dynamite and explosives and black powder and all kinds of stuff in there, so it's really cool. So anyway, so today what we're talking about with our friend Fred. So hey, Rick's here. Hello from the airport team. So nice. So Rick's here watching. Rick is away helping his mom, like I mentioned, he's going down to Florida to help his mom. Jeremy's on vacation. And so I reached out to Fred. I'm like, hey, Fred, Rick's not going to be here. Jeremy's not going to be here. You want to do the show? He goes, yeah, great. And I threw an idea at him. He goes, you know what? I think I got a better something out there. I think there's something better. It was the nicest way anybody's ever said, your idea sucks, to me. But he said, I think I got a better idea. And so he calls me back and he goes, how about if we do the trickle down effect? And he explained what that meant to me. He explained that. And I thought it was very well said. And I thought it was a fantastic idea. So I'm going to kick it down to Fred. Fred, what is the trickle down effect? And what are we talking about today? Enlighten us, please.
Okay. So to me, the trickle down effect would be, I can relate it to my experience, but I'm sure you guys have the same or similar stories to tell. So I was inspired to play drums when I was 10, and I just fell in love with it. And I had a really great teacher that just infected this excitement for drumming. And as I went along the way, having different teachers and things like that, and continuously being inspired and motivated, and just the enthusiasm that my drum teachers had, and then me slowly getting into teaching myself and kind of carrying that same torch and passing that on to my students, and then seeing the results of the path that they've gone down. And Bart, I think you mentioned in an episode in recent months about coming across a former student that had been with you in the past and now they're grown up, and seeing where their life is and where music might be involved in their life still, and that impact that you had on that student. And Chip, I'm sure you could relate to all of this stuff as well. And so I been having like these really deep conversations with my dad recently, because as you know, my mom passed away in February.
Right.
So I've been just in constant contact with my dad, just having really deep, sometimes pretty emotional conversations. And one thing that I told him was the most impactful words that were ever spoken to me was, "Go get the junk out of the back of the truck." That sounds funny, but it was like such a huge moment for me. And so, the first time you had me on the show, I told you the story about getting my first drum set, which I could recap that really quick if you want. But
yeah, please do.
So like I said, I started drumming when I was 10. Had this amazing drum teacher I took lessons for the summer until he went off to college. Got involved with school band. Eventually started taking private lessons from other guys in the area. And I would stick with them until they stopped teaching, and I went like through three teachers. But my junior high, where my middle school, junior high band teacher was super, super negative guy. And I just love drumming. And he seemed to be just really hard on the percussion section, especially me, for I don't know why. But we had a concert one night, and I think I was in the 8th grade. So my parents asked my band teacher, "Hey, when do you think we should get Freddie a drum set?" And he put his hands on his hips and took a step closer and said, "I wouldn't buy him a drum set till after he graduates high school. This will be the biggest distraction of his life. This is a big mistake. There's so much to learn before you make that step to getting a drum set." And so the wind was totally taken out of my sails.
Wow.
Man, that sucks.
So the very next day, of course I went home and totally ruined.
Yeah.
Totally deflated and having this feeling like I had done something wrong for my band teacher to respond in that way.
Right.
Like, what did I do wrong? What am I at fault for doing? To be told that, or my parents to be told that.
Right.
So the next day, without me knowing, my dad had just been looking in the paper and saw an estate sale, and it said something about a drum set, and he thought, why not? I'll go check it out. And so for $65, he bought this 5-piece drum kit that was pretty junky. In retrospect, it was pretty junky.
Right.
But he brought it. This is the very next day after my teacher said, "Hey, don't do this." And when he came home from work, and he's giving us extra chores to do, as was his way, and told my sisters to do whatever, and he looked right at me and he said, "Go get the junk out of the back of the truck." Well, the junk that was in the back of the truck was this drum set. And so what a huge pivotal moment for me to hear those words. And so my dad was over for the 4th of July, and we were hanging out, talking and having really deep conversation, and he's always excited about what's, I built this studio and looking to expand the studio and the amount of students I have. I told him about the Aquarian thing. I already have an endorsement with Vader drumsticks. I started talking with the guys at Peisty. Part of that's thanks to Chip. Just a lot of things that are moving forward for me in a really positive, great way. And my dad's sitting there in tears, and he's like, "I didn't know I was buying a gold mine," is what he said. For $65, he bought a gold mine. And so every once in a while, I will get drum sets donated to me. People know that I teach drum lessons, and they find out about me, or they're friends of mine or whatever.
Right.
And they're like, "Hey, our kid's not using this anymore. We're not interested in selling it. We'd like to donate it to the studio, and then for you to decide who should receive it." And so I've done this probably a dozen times now. And just recently I had a Simmons digital kit given to me by another teacher in town.
Wow.
And he said, hey, I'm not going to use this anymore if you've got a student that's interested or whatever. So I have a student who's 11. He's super motivated. He's just, I see a lot of myself in him.
Yeah.
He's got an acoustic kit, but he's like, I want to practice more, but I can't because my grandparents are over visiting, or my sister's doing this, or my dad's on the computer or whatever. He said, I'm going to try to save up my lawn mowing money to buy an electric kit. And so immediately in my mind, I thought, here's the perfect kid to get this drum kit. So I messaged his mom yesterday and I said, hey, I have this. I would like to give it to Court with your permission. And she just, texted me back like almost in tears, kind of a text like, this would be so great. Thank you so much. So tomorrow I'll have a kid walk in the door who's going to leave with the drum set. And that's just like my dad did that for me. And now I get to do that over and over and over for students. Now,
Right.
had my dad not ever done that, I don't know where I would be with my life.
Right.
So that's part of that trickle down effect is part of that whole process. And just the meaning of it is just so far beyond just actually playing the drums.
Yeah. Dude, it's so deep.
Yeah.
What you're describing and what you're doing, and everything that you've said and described, I know I've gone through with students and done the same thing. And the gratitude that, because I had to buy my first drum set, and it was, that's a whole other story. But when you see somebody that loves it as much as you do, and you give them something like that, the joy on their face and the joy that you get from giving it to them is huge.
Yeah.
Now, Chip, at the beginning of the episode, you talked about one of your students that what did you say he had? Williams?
He has Williams syndrome.
Can you describe to us what Williams syndrome is, and how what Fred is describing as the trickle down thing, how that affects you with a student like that, or any student, but that one in particular because you brought him up?
Well, I don't exactly know how that affects it. I know that I do my best to deal with it, and me showing up and doing my best ends up producing a good result in him, which ends up producing a good result in his life. So that would be the trickle down effect for me. I mean, I like to think about the first teachers I've had that taught me and inspired me on the drums, that got me going. And then, you know what I mean? Meeting someone like, I have a student named Matthew Weiniger. I met him on the first day that they told him how to hold the sticks, and from day one on the drum set, and he's progressed over the years and has become a fantastic drummer. And now he tours with bands that I used to tour with. So he's doing just great, and his life has just exploded in a different way. And I think that's part of what you're talking about. Am I right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I definitely think so. I definitely think that's.
I understand that.
Yeah. Now, Fred, let me ask you this. I want to put a little bit different spin on this because I've lived through this as well. You said that you had a drum teacher that was really negative. He was the guy that said, don't buy the kit. It would be a big mistake and stuff like that.
That was my school band director.
Okay, yeah, your school band director, and I had a band director like that once too. How did that? And I think it is really crappy that he did that, and he almost crushed you, and your dad, definitely made roses out of manure with it. Obviously,
Yeah.
How did the negativity? How do you look at that now? Was that were you able to turn obviously that negative thing into a positive because of what your dad did, or how do you think about that sort of stuff now, the negative energy that some people just have in them that they want to put on another person?
Yeah, so I think at the time and the age I was, I didn't fully understand the impact of everything, good or bad, in that situation. until later in life, to look back at that as an adult and having my own kids too. But so one thing that happened is that band director was kind of on his way out and a new band director was coming in. So the one that said, don't get the drum kit, super negative. Just, I don't know. And some band teachers are like that. I've noticed is they're so quick to put water on the fire, you know?
Yeah.
I'm about pouring gas on the fire.
Let's get
this blazing, you know?
Yeah, let's get her going, man. Fan the flames.
So the new band director coming in was the yes man. And so he was really, really encouraging. So as this joker was on his way out, this really cool guy was on his way in, who I respected tremendously. And I tell a lot of people, like outside of my parents, he probably had one of the most influential people on my life was the new band director that came in, Sam Stone. And so when I got that drum set and I went to school the next day, and you know, I don't know how I presented it exactly, but I walked up to the yeah, exactly. There were birds flying in there.
Exactly.
Home Depot. Yeah. So I kind of did that to him, so to speak, and said, you know, hey, my dad got me this drum set, and he's shaking his head and kind of muttering to himself. Well, the new band director coming in overheard this conversation.
No.
And he walked right over to me and told me, congratulations, tell me about this drum set that you had. Like, he was like genuinely interested in what that was.
Yep.
So what a huge contrast of teachers. And so that's like, not just in teaching, but in my relationships I have with different bands that I play with and band members. You know, we're all dealing with different personalities. Some people are set off easier about things than others, you know, things that bother them. Not that I'm perfect, but I think that experience helped me navigate some of those challenges that come along the way in my professional career. You know, me trying to be a positive influence on all of my students, and, you know, being a positive team member of whatever band I'm playing with. Or, you know, I do quite a bit of recording too for people that send me drum tracks, and I just want to be a part of that team for that project, and just staying positive. And if there's something negative about it, it's addressing that privately, one-on-one with that person, and not try to embarrass somebody by having a conversation that's out of place, or, you know, might look appropriate to people who might be observing. I think those are all really important ways to conduct yourself. And a lot of that came from the drum teachers I had, and my band teacher, and of course my parents, you know.
Yeah. I think that that's magnificent. I have a story about my 8th grade band director as well. His name is Ted Folty, and I always followed him because, like your, you know, drum teachers that you've had, like all of us have had, he was such a positive impact on me. He was the first drum teacher, the first band director that kind of made me feel like I could do it. I don't know, I'm sure you guys have run into this, I don't know, but in junior high and high school band, it's a lot like being on a football team. It's a lot like being in sports, where there's a competition there, right? I mean, like first chair drummer, second chair drummer, third chair drummer. And when you're younger, you don't have the life tools yet, I think, to not be, you know, to be soft about the competition and have a friendly competition.
Yeah.
So it's a lot like, you know, like sports, where, you know, hey, I can play my Radic McHughes faster than you, and I'm better, and, you know, that kind of thing that happens. Well, I was never the guy that was at the top of the heap. I mean, I was for 1 year, but I was surrounded by so many great drummers. I mean, I went to school with so many amazing drummers, and I think it's because I was a drummer, and I wanted to be in that group. If I was a football player, it would have been football. If it, whatever. But so I was around that. So anyway, Ted Folty was the first one that really made me feel like, you can do this. You have what it takes. You need to nurture it. And he showed me what it meant to be not only a good drummer but a showman, and and what it meant to be part of a group. He, incidentally, Mr. Folty played for Bob Hope for many years, so he really knew the business well,
Nice.
and it was really neat. And then years later, the Sam Morrison Band, we had a contract with this company in Arizona where we would go around and we would play a lot of gated communities that were really high-end communities, and they had like their own performing arts center. We still do that, but we were playing this one in particular, and Ted Folty would snowbird between Colorado and Arizona, and so he was it was the winter time, and he was staying out there, and we had gotten in touch over the internet, and he goes, "Hey, I'm going to be at the show tonight." And I was like, "Oh my God." So he came up, and we talked about an hour before the show. We got to hang out. And then after the show, he had very kind words about the band. He got up and he played the drums and said things about the drums, and he just killed it. And he goes, "Man, I'm rusty. I haven't played in years." And he was a jazz guy, so he just shredded. And the thing that I got from that was, he said to me, because I told him, I said, you'll never know the impact that you had on me. You were the first guy that really made me feel like I could do it. And he was like, I had no idea. I had no idea that you felt that way. I was like, oh, and I couldn't call him Ted. I kept calling him Mr. Folty. And at the time, I'm, a 40-something-year-old grown man. And I'm like, Mr. Folty. It was, and I mean, that's just how I addressed him, I guess as a sign of respect, or that's how I always knew him, or a little bit of both. But it was really cool. And so his positive influence had that on me,
Yeah. You saying, you calling him Mr. Folty, I think is an ultimate sign of respect for somebody that you used to always address that way. And for years later to still have that is, I think that's really important. And like I said, just a tremendous show of respect for somebody that had such an influence on you. Same with my band teacher, the positive guy, Sam Stone. I never called him Sam. He was always Mr. Stone.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, he passed away a few years ago from cancer, but, I'd interact with him on Facebook occasionally. And I see his sons around town all the time because they play music. And I'm like, your dad, Mr. Stone, was so awesome. I never called him Sam. So
yeah,
it just felt wrong to.
It does.
Yeah.
Now, Chip, what about you? You've had teachers over the years. Did you ever have one that really like impacted you?
Man,
and really like,
I think the most influential person that affected my trajectory the most happened to have been my grandmother.
Oh,
when
really?
I was talking, I was in 6th grade or 5th grade, and I wanted to be a drummer. And I talked to my mom and my dad about wanting to be a drummer, for my life. That was what I wanted to be as a career, and my mom was like, "That's nice, but you need to have something to fall back on." And my dad was like, "Yeah, we'll see, but you're going to have to go to, you have to get a degree in something and have something to fall back on for a real job." And I was really bummed out about it in my grandmother's kitchen, and, almost to tears. And she was like, "What's wrong?" And I was like, "Well, apparently that I'm going to have to fall back on something. I'm not going to be able to be a drummer, And she goes, "You could be a drummer. I bet you'd be a great drummer." She started talking about all the possibilities about how if I dedicated myself and if I was willing to work at it, that I could be as good a drummer as anybody else in the world, and have a career and really make it as a drummer, And she was telling me this, and I was just like in 5th grade, and it really like brought me up and made me believe in myself and made me believe in the process. And so that had a big immense trickle down effect on me in my life as far as making it as a drummer and not giving up.
That's amazing, dude, and that comes from a family member. Your grandmother. That's really that's great to hear, because I think there's a lot of us out there that don't have that positive thing from a family member. It's like, oh no, you can do this, go for it, and I think that's wonderful. I really do. One of the things that I always try to, like you said, Fred, and you've said so many times over the course of the deck thing, Chip, about, being positive and putting that positive feedback into like drumming in general. I don't know if you guys feel this way, but there's a lot of times, we have, you have those moments where you're challenged with a student, and the challenge may not be, how to play Lefty by George Lawrence Stone. That's what happens to be sitting in front of me on my music stand right now. The challenge is the 6-year-old that's trying to play quarter notes, right? And the kid really wants to do it. Okay, play 4 quarter notes for me, and they go 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're like, no, and just having that patience to 1, 2, 3, 4, and then when you're like, yeah, that was it, and you see them light up.
Yeah.
You're like, that was it. Yeah, that was it. You did a great job. Now do this. And I think that's important. I think it's important to remember when you were that kid. And the analogy I always tell my students, I'm like, look, and if they're kind of bummed because it's only quarter notes, or it's, I'm not getting this, I always say, hey, you know who Michael Jordan is? You know who he was? And even young kids, oh yeah, Michael Jordan, Air Jordan, basketball player, a lot of them know who he is. Well, think about this. At one time in Michael Jordan's life, he was terrible at playing basketball. He was horrible at it. He couldn't even dribble a ball. Really? Yeah. He didn't just wake up one day and go, look what I can do. He worked at it, and passing that on, and passing on that passion, and having the patience. And Chip, that's one of the things that you've said numerous times. You have that in spades, that patience to sit there, is amazing. Fred, what do you think about that? What do you think about when you're having a student that's really struggling but he wants it? How do you try to tap into that?
Well, patience, because every student's going to move on their timeline.
Yep.
I'm still absorbing for a moment what Chip said about his grandmother. Like, I wish I could give her a big hug, because I think those people are important.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm a little teary-eyed. I think having support from home is so crucial to the process.
Yeah.
I always had that from my parents, that support. And even when I got in trouble, like if I got grounded from something, I was never grounded from playing the drums. That's like one thing that my parents never said. I'm taking that back. Yeah. That never, ever happened. But I know I have students that is something that gets taken away from them. And I think that's a dangerous thing to mess with. Now, being a parent, I understand the need for discipline and those kind of things, but I recognize even more the need for support and encouraging, people in the right way to progress. So, if a student's struggling or something, I try to find something that helps break through so they can have that light up moment that you're talking about, Bart. We're like, oh, I played 4 quarter notes in a row. Awesome. Now see if you can do it 2 times in a row. Like set these little goals. Okay, you're only going to play 2 measures of quarter notes, but that might be a big deal for them.
Yeah.
And then they leave their lesson like feeling like they accomplished something, and then that motivates them to want to be here again the next week. I think that's huge.
Yeah.
Huge. And I'm sure both of you guys experience this too, is that, we want our students to practice, because if they practice, they get better. And I think if they hear themselves get better, then they have more motivation to keep wanting to improve. You know? So I get asked all the time, like, well, how long and how often should they practice? That's a hard question to answer, especially when that student is involved with swimming and football and rock climbing and whatever. It's like every day of the week has something that's occupying their time that requires so much devotion. So I think that you can overload kids big time with too much activity. But then on top of it, you get parents that are like, well, I only want them to practice on Saturday morning because that's when everybody's gone from the house. You know, we don't have to listen to it. It's like, man, I just know for sure the noise that I created for years at my family home.
I'm still creating it. I'm still trying to figure this out.
Yeah. The only rule that I had was not to play past 9 p.m.
Yeah.
And that was it.
So. You know, that, and I have I know we all have these success stories. I want to touch on something you said, Fred. I think having support from home is so incredibly important. And I had a student, he always, whenever I talk to him and I want to get him here on deck, he's like, well, I took lessons from you too. This Harley DeWinter, he plays with an up and coming, you know Harley.
Yep.
Yeah, and
I know of him.
Yeah. Oh my God. This guy is phenomenal. And Harley, I met him at Aquarian, and I met his dad, David DeWinter, and he came over to the house, and I don't know, 4 or 5 lessons, and he was well into his playing, and now he's playing with Breland, and they tour all over the place. And even though he didn't study with me for a long time, I still hold with a sense of pride the things that he learned from me. I just saw a thing, last year when he was on tour, they opened up for Shania Twain at Madison Square Garden. They're playing arenas and sheds all over the world. I mean, he's doing it, and he is so good. And so the reason I talk about him is because I think that trickle down effect goes both ways. I think when I see somebody that, even though he only studied with me for a little bit of time, I live vicariously through that. And his father and his mother, this is where the family thing comes in. You've never seen family support like this. I mean, David DeWinter is his partner in crime. They're best friends. He's his dad. His dad is, his business manager practically. And oh my God, he was this type of guy. It's like, Harley, go get it. You have to go get it. And he worked at it, and he's done it, and he's phenomenal. Just absolutely phenomenal. And one of the nicest guys you ever want to meet. So I think the family thing is a big, big deal. Having, I think to not have that, and to have a bunch of negativity come at you that is not uplifting and supportive, it takes so much intestinal fortitude to get yourself through that. And it also takes an immense amount of belief in yourself that may have been nurtured by somebody else. You have to really kind of dig deep and do that to find that. And you may not get it. You may not get it without that support, Yeah. So, so family support, it's a big deal.
I want to know from Chip, because that really hit home, your grandma telling you that. Chip, do you think that was the one thing in your life that said, yes, I can do that, and that was the path you took? Was what your grandma told you?
Yeah, that was the catalyst. Yeah. I left that kitchen and I was on my way to becoming a drummer.
I love that. Yeah, that's so awesome. That's just like my dad saying, "Get the junk out of the back of the truck."
Yeah.
In his mind, he was like, "Hey, my kid likes playing the drums. What's the harm in this?" And it's a $65 investment. And if he decides in 6 months this isn't for him, I'm not out a lot of money, you know, and all he saw was, hey, my son's interested in this. What harm is that, you know? And then when I was talking to him the other day, just to see that whole path that I've been on, and you know, being given drum sets and passing those on to other people, like that was something that he started with me, and I get to keep passing that on, and hopefully as those drummers become older and maybe they become teachers as well, that they continue doing similar things.
Right.
And
And I'm gonna
Yeah.
use this moment because of what you're talking about with teachers and stuff like that to do a little commercial here, if you guys don't mind.
All right, let's go.
Yeah. So Center Stream, let's go. Let's do it. Let's do it.
Oh, I don't have
So
my materials here.
you don't. What the heck, Fred?
They're in the other room.
You had one job. I'm joking.
I know. I have that.
I know you do. I have the great honor of being published on Centerstream, Hal Leonard, as well as Hudson Music, and so I think it's really important if you are a drum student, a student of the instrument, as I am, and as we all are, to understand the rudiments. Couple of years ago, my publisher came to me and he has this series of things that he does called ASAP. It's under this banner, and it's guitar lessons and banjo lessons and everything. And he goes, I want the original 26 rudiments put onto paper. I was like, okay, great. And so we did this, and Centerstream Publishing has a little bit of everything. So if you're a drummer, if you are a guitar player, if you play the harp, you want to play mandolin, you want to understand the history of music, they have books on everything. So check out Centerstream Publishing. If you're interested in this product right here, you can go to my website, bartrobley.com. It's $5 for this thing plus the shipping, and I'll get it in the mail to you. And I also, whenever I send something out, I always throw in a few other little goodies in there. So if you do buy it from me, I've got this paradiddle worksheet that I've been teaching for years. I throw that in there so you get a few more other little goodies in there. So check out Centerstream Publishing if you're a multi-instrumentalist, and I have a lot of my books on there. So check that out. So anyway, enough of that. Thank you, Centerstream Publishing and Aquarian Drumheads, for being sponsors of the show. Trickle down effect. Let's go back to this. Fred, tell us a success story. I talked about Harley, and we all have them. What's one of your success stories that you have where you're like, I helped that guy or I helped that gal?
Yeah, I have a couple. So I have a student, his name is Chris McCall, and he mostly plays in church worship music, and he recently switched churches to kind of this, I don't know, our version of a mega church where they have a bunch of drummers on the team already. And so he went through the whole audition process, being in here, recording 2 songs. We did video that he could submit, and he was accepted onto the worship team. So that was really pretty cool to help facilitate that. The other would be my son, Christian. My son, Christian, is involved in the marching arts. He's a killer snare drum player, completely destroys me, as he should. Yeah, the most thing in common is our last name. He's really amazing. And I was telling this to Bart on the phone, I think briefly yesterday, but the really cool thing is that, my kids have grown up in a music household with no pressure to be a musician necessarily, but it's like, hey, this is what mom and dad do. I'm going to get involved with it too. So Christian got involved with marching band in high school. His freshman year, he played bass clarinet. And then his sophomore year, he moved to bass drum in the battery. Junior year, center snare. Senior year, center snare. Got involved with Drum Corps International, marching with the Battalion Drum and Bugle Corps out of Salt Lake excuse me, Salt
Wow.
Lake City. He did that for 19, 21, 22, and 23. So he aged out with the battalion last year. He also does indoor, and he is the instructor for our local DCI group called the Boise Gems. They're a sound sport group, so they're really new. They're kind of small, but he's the battery instructor for that group. He also teaches the battery at Timberline High School in Boise, and he's also writing the book for this year's marching season. So he's writing all the battery parts.
Wow.
Awesome.
Which is really super cool. But he's had the support from home, just like my parents had the support from me. So he's had that support. And of course, you know, he has all his drum corps friends, and they come in this room and go nuts frequently. But one of them told me that he said, hey, you know, I would have never gotten involved with drum corps if it hadn't been for Christian. So my influence on my son's influence on his peers, and my son got really super hyped about being in drum corps. And now there's this big crop of drummers in the Boise area who are all involved with drum corps. There's people at the academy, people at Pacific Crest, people at the Troopers Battalion, the Cascades. It spread like wildfire, and a lot of that had to do with Christian's influence. So I think that's a huge success story with my own son. Yeah.
Yeah. Chip, what about you?
That is. Well, I've got a student came to me named Scarlett, and she had never played drums before. And she said she wanted to play in the church band. And I said, yeah, that's something we can shoot for. You know what I mean? And let's learn how to play some beats and go through the deal. And so we went through, and she's been taking lessons for a couple of years now. And about 2 months ago, she told me that she auditioned and she got the gig at the church. So she's the church drummer there where she wanted to be, and she achieved one of her dreams. So that was very cool. I really felt good about that.
Both of you guys are both of those stories are so hugely inspirational. And that's why I always miss when, like, you know, when Chip and when Jeremy and Rick aren't here, because they have these stories too. And I think that you know, that's kind of what DEC is all about. When Chip initially made the phone call to start this, it's about, okay, how can we affect the drumming community in a positive way and send out these good intentions to the things that we love so much. And so both of you guys, that's so cool. I mean, because Chip, now you're a student who's playing in the church worship band, is not only you know, playing worship for, you know, leading people in worship in their you know, in their faith and in their beliefs, but she's doing something that she loves, and she's going to spark somebody else to want to learn to play.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Play music, you know, and I think that that's so cool. One of the things that, you know, playing music and being a part of a team is so, I mean, it's so deep. It really is. And that's what you guys are describing here with being a teacher, you know, and being, you know, influential with your children, with Fred, your own personal story with Christian and so forth. I think that we can have those moments where we're not expecting it.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden something happens, and this has happened to me a couple of times. One time I was standing behind the stage getting ready to go on at a gig. One time in a grocery store, this guy walks up to me, and he has a baby and a little bassinet, and he's doing his grocery shopping and just, you know, doing the domestic thing. And he comes up, he goes, you know, you're Bart Robley, right? And I went, yes, I am. I go, yeah. And he goes,
you caught me without my Sharpie.
Exactly. Sorry, I don't have a Sharpie. Where would you like me to sign?
I derailed your story.
No, I'm just such a jerk. I go, yeah, I am. He goes, I took drum lessons from you years ago at this place called Jam Music over in Villa Park, California. And I was there for like 5 minutes. It was a guitar shop, and he went out of business, and it was really a cool store, and it was a shame they went out of business. But I taught there for, I don't know, 4 or 5 months was all. But he's like, man, those lessons meant so much to me. And, I got this, he told me what he did for a living, and I was so blown away by it. I forgot what he did, but he's like, I've got a great job now. I've got this beautiful drum set at home, and I have the kids, the wife and the kids, but that's like my escape. That's my go. I want to get away. I need 20 minutes, and I go out and I play my drums. And he goes, and it was because of you, because you made me realize that I could do this. And I just wanted to say thank you. And man, that meant so much to me, because I didn't, I hate to say it, but after you've been teaching for a while, students come and go. And I remembered the name, but I could, he's a grown man now. He was a little kid. And I was like, man, sorry, I remember your name. But it was impactful. And it was there again, the trickle down effect, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to teach my kids someday. And I'd like to get a card from you. Maybe we could get together for some lessons again. I gave him my card, and yeah, it's the same phone number, and it was just cool. It was just really neat. Have you ever had anything like that happen, either one of you, where somebody comes up to you and you taught them a long time ago?
So I've had, go ahead, Chip.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was at the in a cruise ship in 1998, playing in a country band called the Smoky River Band, and a drummer came up to me and he asked me, he's like, I've got a show on the main stage. Can I borrow your hi-hat? There's no hi-hat. I didn't bring mine. Can I borrow yours for the show on the main stage? And I said, when's your show over? He said, like 4 o'clock or whatever. I said, absolutely, go ahead. So I lent him my hi-hat stand, and I came to the rescue. You know what I mean? I saved his situation. And 1998, and then forward to 2015, I'm at the NAMM show, and I'm doing my stick juggling thing, and this guy takes a video of me, and he puts it on his Facebook, and it gets over 10 million views. And the guy's name is Gary, and it was the guy that I lent the hi-hat stand to.
Oh, wow.
So you never know what may happen with the trickle down effect.
Yeah.
It was cool.
I've had students that come by the studio that I haven't seen in years, because they'll just pop in while I'm open and peek their head in, and it's always a really cool surprise. But not happening to me directly, but what happened to one of my drum teachers I had in high school, who was probably my favorite drum teacher, Tim Burke. And unfortunately, he passed away last summer from some kind of a cancer or something, but took lessons from him in high school until he stopped teaching and moved on to college or whatever his thing was. I don't remember. But a few years ago, I was playing with a band and we were opening up for Foreigner. And I'm playing, doing my thing, and I see about 3 or 4 rows back from the front, this guy standing there, just this huge smile on his face. And that was my old teacher, Tim. And so he was having that moment that we're talking about, like, right. Here's this kid I used to teach lessons to, and now here he is opening up for Foreigner. And so we got done, and the gear's off stage, and so I see him over by, it's an outdoor show, and he's over by the gate going to backstage, and I kind of wave at him, told him, give me a few minutes, I'll be over there. So get myself put together and go over and give him a big hug. And he was almost in tears. And he was like, of all my students I had, I knew you were going to be the guy that would actually do something with this, And so it was just an awesome moment. It's part of that whole trickle down thing. And so my wife messaged me. So she kind of gave me this idea of the trickle down effect that we were talking about, but I think this is pretty important, being music educators and drum teachers, is I can't even begin to pronounce this guy's last name, but he's somebody named Von Flischfresser. I know that's probably not
Is
right.
he a vampire?
He might be.
Von Flischfresser.
I'm pretty sure he's German.
Drink your blood.
But he said, we need music education for the next generation of professional musicians. We need it for the next generation of amateur musicians. We need it for the next generation of audience members. We need it for our health and well-being. We need music education because we all need music. And I thought that was a pretty profound thing, the importance of music. And some of that resonates a little bit with me too, Bart, because I've been reading your book, your Rhythmic Journey book.
Thank you.
About how important music is for our health and well-being. And, you know, we need music for the next generation of professionals and the next generation of audience members.
Yeah, I like that, next generation of audience members. Music to me is the cognitive effects that it has on our brain when you go through anything good or bad. I mean, the neuroplasticity in our brain can heal itself. It can do remarkable things, and music soothes and uplifts, and it does so many great things. And I kind of think about it this way, you know, we're all gonna get in a car today and go somewhere, and we're gonna have the radio on, and we're gonna be hearing a song. And then wherever we go, we might go run an errand and then go by the grocery store, and there's music playing through the speakers. And then you go into the dry cleaner and there's TV on and the commercial comes on, and there's a song playing on the commercial. There's all these things where music is there in the background, so much so that it's taken for granted. And we forget what it takes to be able to do that. If a child is born and they have a baby shower, they have music playing for the baby, right? And then when somebody passes away and we mourn them, music is there at the wake and at the funeral. So literally from the cradle to the grave, music is there. Yeah. And I still, when I hear the song Memories by Elvis, it just kills me, because it was my mom's favorite song. And I had a cousin when I was a kid who drowned, and we played that song at his funeral. It reminds me of him. And there's all these things that music just brings back memories. It's very important. And what you just said is so important, that we need music teachers. We need educators. We need to pass this stuff on, because without it, I think the art form, it turns into, a computer program. It's not sticks to head, sticks to cymbals, pick to strings, whatever. It's something that is not, it's not coming from here. It's not coming from here. So it is very important. Really.
Yeah. And I see that I call my wife the producer. She's in the chat, and I see that she said, and too many school districts are cutting music as well.
Yep.
Man, what a detrimental thing to be happening in our culture.
Yeah, I mean, and man, we could go down a wormhole on that, because there's so many things that are getting cut in education that, quite frankly, shouldn't be cut. I mean, the arts are important, and it doesn't matter if it's music, if it's visual, if it's dance. It's so important, right? I mean, one of my favorite things is to, like, I love going to beach cities, and because they're all really colorful, and there's surfboards that are colorful, and there's swimming suits for sale that are colorful, and they're umbrellas, and it's just an explosion of art. And then somebody's gone along with a spray can and they've tagged the wall, and it's art, and it's incredible to me. And I think the art needs to be funded, and I think that music needs to be funded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All of that being said, guys, we're out of time. It's 12 o'clock, and we could sit here till 4 o'clock talking about drums and education.
I would do it.
Dude, People on the internet would be like, shut up. Go hit the stop button, please. Anyway, so thank you guys who watched. Rick and Jeremy, in your travels, please be safe, and we'll see you here back on deck real soon. And Fred, I think that next week you're up to bat again. So
I'll step in whenever I'm needed.
right on. Well, very good. So anyway, guys, next week we'll see you on deck. I'm going to see if I can push the stop button, pick up the sticks, and play something that sounds musical. I'm not promising anything. Everybody have a great week. And for God's sakes, go practice. We'll talk to you soon.